Okay, it's 8:01, so good morning, everyone. Whoever's joining us, thank you. Today, I'm Christine Orr, Superintendent, and Tim Dawkins, Assistant Superintendent, are just going to do a quick summary of some of the information that our families and our staff received in the last couple days from us. Each day, it is putting the pieces together, which is what you see on our presentation right now for that. So we do thank you for joining us, and we will get started. A few weeks ago, one of the things that was happening in our plan was to wait to see how our numbers were by August 7th. And on August 7th, the governor did come in and let everyone know that all regions in New York State, the numbers were less than 1%. And currently in the capital region, as of yesterday, our numbers were at 0.3%. So based on those numbers, we are authorized to open for in-person instruction. He then put down some additional things that districts needed to do. We had to have 3 new meetings, which were already in the works for us, and we already had 3 previous meetings. We also will be meeting today, and then tomorrow, Mr. Modi is going to also talk about high school scheduling, and if there's any middle school people out there, you can also join that one virtually for that. The last piece was by August 14th, we had to put these 3 things on the website, and there are links on our reopening pages for them. I'm going to stop on this slide for just a minute. For anyone that's out there, if you plan to be asking questions, we are going to do it through a Google form since this is a live stream. If you just put your phone up on camera to the QR code, it should link right now to our Google form that answers, that will be able to ask any questions along the way on this. And then either during the presentation, Mr. Dawkins or I will be monitoring it and we'll be answering questions. At the end, we'll make sure to try to get to all the questions. Also on our webpage, there are lots of FAQs we've been collecting from all of our other informational sessions, and they're all answered for you on our reopening page. So just a few more seconds on this. Okay. Throughout the whole time, we have now been talking about these same 11 things, reimagining and reopening priority areas. There have been 11 areas since we've been working on in South Glens Falls since probably in June. And each one of these is a high priority for us and has lots of moving parts. But this is what we've really been trying to put together for that. In our opening presentations and very clearly online, all 11 parts are listed. Today, we're going to talk just about a few simple ones: school structure and support, technology, communication, and then before and after childcare. We feel like those 4 parts we still want to click on and make sure that we are, everyone is very clear on what those are for that. Mr. Dawkins, do you want to talk about what we've been working on in UPK through 5th grade for us?
Absolutely. So, you know, we've done a number of these forums and we've had feedback from families that are involved in all grade levels in our district. But what we clearly heard from the families at our elementary level, UPK through 5th grade, was that a hybrid model where students are attending in-person instruction 50% of the time and at-home instruction, virtual instructions the rest of the time, was that would be a burden on their family regarding childcare and for other reasons. So we've worked really hard, and our principals, especially at the building levels, have worked very hard to figure out ways in which we can get our elementary schools to 100% in-person instruction. We still have guidelines from the New York State Department of Health that we need to follow, including all students being 6 feet apart. And we are keeping cohorts of students together. And so, you know, we have other things listed there that you can see. We have to have certified teachers in charge of teaching. So when we're creating sections, we have to make sure that it's a certified person that's leading that section. We felt it was very important that we kept all of our special areas in our master schedule. Students still need music, art, phys ed, library. They need all of that as part of a rich experience in school. And so because of that, because of social distancing and because of the structures in place and the guidance from New York State Department of Health, we really needed to reimagine what our school buildings look like. As you know, if you've been in our 4 elementary buildings, no 2 buildings are the same in physical structure, although they may look somewhat similar. They have different classroom sizes, different spaces. But we did decide that if we were going to be 100% for one of our elementary schools, we really need to be 100% for all 4 of them. And so we'll talk about what that school structure looks like. The other piece of this is our UPK program. Our UPK program is housed at Morrell Elementary School, and there are 18 students in each section of our UPK program. 18 students is not possible to have in a classroom and have students be socially distanced. And so, unfortunately, we will not be able to be 100% in person for our UPK program, excuse me. So instead, our students will be broken into 2 groups and come in on specific days. And you can see on the screen there, that is our example of our UPK schedule. We will still have AM and PM groups in each of those 2 red and blue groups. But students will be assigned as a red group AM, a red group PM, a blue group AM, or a blue group PM. And they would come in on those days. Wednesday, you can see starting that second week of school, the 14th, Wednesdays will be a cleaning day and a reorganization day here in South Glens Falls at all levels. And so we are not going to have any students in the building on Wednesdays. For our UPK students, that's going to be an opportunity for them to kind of learn what it means to be on a computer in case we have to go full remote if our cases of COVID-19 rise in the capital region. It's also an opportunity for our UPK teachers to kind of adjust their classroom systems based on the feedback that they're getting each week. This is a learning process for all of us. This is new. We're doing the best that we can, but there are certainly going to be some things that we learn as we implement them. And so that's what our UPK schedule will look like. This is going to be going home to all families. And in fact, has this gone home already, Ms. Orr, or will it be coming out? You're muted. Ms. Orr, you're muted.
It's on our website, and an email went home to all families yesterday.
Okay, that's what I thought. So as you can see, we have 2 parallel schools happening, at least for the first trimester. This year at the elementary level, we have our regular in-person learning. We also have a virtual school, which will begin on September 14th. So for the week of September 8th through the 11th, our K through 5 students, whose last names begin with A through L, will attend Tuesday, September 8th and Wednesday, September 9th. Our K through 5 students whose last names begin with M through Z will attend in person Thursday, September 10th and Friday, September 11th. So what that means is our K through 5 students, A through L, will not attend in school or virtual learning on Thursday or Friday of that week. And the same goes for our M through Z students, will not attend in person or virtual Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. After that first week where we work with kids to get acclimated to our new processes and procedures, where our teachers get to know their students, and where we really kind of work on getting the kids settled, we will begin the regular in-person learning and virtual learning schedule starting on September 14th. And you can see that model below. It'll be 100% of our K-5 students Monday and Tuesday in person. Wednesday will be a virtual day for all students, so they'll be at home. Thursday and Friday, they will be back in the building 100% K through 5. And then our virtual school begins on the 14th as well. And you will be hearing a little bit more about that. Our virtual school principal, Geraldine Stellato, is working on contacts and sending letters, as well as setting up some orientations for that, but that will be obviously virtual Monday through Friday for any of our families that have voluntarily signed up to participate in virtual school. This is what our schedule will look like for September for our K through 5th grade students. Again, I mentioned that first week starting on September 8th is really going to be about social emotional learning. It's going to be about students adjusting to new protocols, you know, especially when we think about our youngest students coming into school for the first time, some of them ever, are kindergartners. If they haven't participated in a preschool program or a UPK program, they really have no idea what school looks like. And so we really felt like we needed that time, that first week, to get our students acclimated. One of the benefits, if there is any silver lining to our school buildings having to close back in March, is that our teachers had a number of months to really get to know our students, to establish procedures with them, and our students had an opportunity to get to know their teachers. And so the transition was a little bit smoother. We wanted to make sure that our teachers had the same opportunity to see their kids before we started the full model on the 14th, and to really talk about what it means to be in school, especially in the middle of the pandemic with the new processes and procedures that we have in place. As I mentioned, Wednesday is a remote day. That is a cleaning day. It's a day for students or for teachers to adjust their systems or their classrooms based on their experience that week. And it's also an opportunity for our elementary students to practice on remote, just in case we end up having to go to full remote teaching based on the governor's and Department of Health's guidance.
So Mr. Dawkins, I'm going to stop you for a second. There's a few questions that have come in and that are specific to elementary, so I'm going to answer them now. First and foremost, there will be a slide on technology, so we'll review this again, but our goal for this year is that all students kindergarten through 12th grade have their own Chromebook that they'll be able to bring home on days where the remote learning would be taking place. As you can imagine, right now we're in a holding pattern to receive our new Chromebooks because every school in the country is also looking for Chromebooks. But we are still hopeful that we'll be receiving that shipment prior to the beginning of September and school starting for that. So if we have to adjust September 16th because all students do not have access to a Chromebook, we will do that. Also, there are 5th grade parents on the line that have 5th grade Chromebooks. And just so you're aware, you're going to keep those Chromebooks into 6th grade until the new Chromebooks come in. Once the new Chromebooks come in, the 6th graders will get new Chromebooks, and those 5th grade Chromebooks will go back to the elementary buildings. But we do not want to collect them and then have our 6th graders not have anything because they are on remote, they're on a hybrid schedule. So we want to make sure that they had that in that person there for that. Also, anybody that has hard internet service or a spotty internet service that's out there, don't hesitate to continue to contact us because we had been giving out MiFis and hotspots and different things like that. And if the need is still there, we will be turning them back on for people because we know that on these remote instruction days, people want to be there for that. There was a question on October schedules. What might change in October that the schedule would be different? Two things that we don't want to go too far in advance because as we know right now in the world, each month is different, sometimes in a good way and sometimes not so much. Our goal is to get to 100% every day, but we have to make sure that our cleaning protocols are in place and that all things can be taken care of for that. So if our numbers in our region continue to be low, one of the things that may happen in October for the elementary schedule was that students would now be in class on Wednesdays for that. If our numbers in our region are high or something were that to happen, we would want to adjust our calendar accordingly, and we would let people know that as soon as possible on that. I know that our elementary parents are anxiously waiting for their teacher schedules and who their teacher is for that. I have a 5th grade daughter at home that checks the mailbox every day, and I don't have the heart to tell her we haven't mailed them out yet. So I still let her do that right now for that. But we haven't met them out purposefully because we need to keep our numbers low in the classroom, which means that we have to adjust our sections and possibly what teachers are at each grade level in order to do that. And so our principals are finalizing that right now. I know at least 2 of the buildings are 95% done, and I'm sure the other ones will be there. So our goal is to still, the quickest way to do that is it will be on School Tool, and it'll be live on School Tool as soon as we get that completed. Mr. Dawkins is working with the elementary principals, I think, at 9 o'clock today to finalize a few more things, and then you will have that there for that in that capacity. I know, Mr. Dawkins, you've been looking at that. Are there any other elementary questions that I may have missed?
Yeah, so there was a question on here about, will K through 5 have virtual school on 9/9 and 9/10? So again, depending on your last name, it's only in person the week of September 8th. And that's going to be for all of our students, and we will go through the middle school and high school as well. But for our elementary, K through 5, A through L last name have in-person instruction September 8th and September 9th. M through Z have in-person instruction September 10th and September 11th. There is no remote or virtual learning that week. So the days that your students are not in the building are days for 3 days for them. Their full-time school schedule will start the following week on September 14th. There was also a middle school question, but we'll save that for when we get to the secondary portion of the presentation.
Yeah, the last question that I see on elementary is, if your child is at a certain elementary school right now, that is our plan, is to keep them there. You would have already heard from us if we needed to move any students around. So our goal was to keep all students where they were comfortable and where they knew, so that way there was no change in there for that.
And then there's a question about, can you share the email of who I should contact if I still need the MiFi turned on for my 2 kids? So what will happen is, when we get closer, right to the start of the year, there will be a contact where you can fill out, and actually it might still be on our website, a Google form where you can go onto our website and fill out a request. What we can do is we will touch base with our technology department to ensure that they can that they may be able to turn on the MiFis for those families that still have them. And we will share out the link to the request for technology assistance or for hotspots in a future email with families.
So I'll take a turn, Mr. Dawkins, so you don't have to talk the whole time, since we're doing school structure most of it. So 6th through 12th grade, you've gotten lots of information on this. And as I said, Mr. Modi is going to do a presentation specifically related to this, because I know that the calendar is a little confusing here for that, but I'll try to spend some time on this model. There is absolutely no way we can get to 100% based on the guidelines by the Department of Health in the middle school and the high school. So therefore, we are on a 50% model. Students will be broken up into group 1 and group 2. And before anyone writes this question, I know one of the questions that will come up is, when will I find out what group my child is on? Or what if I have specific requests for what group my child is on? You contact your guidance counselors for the request. If for some reason you want your child with someone because of carpooling, et cetera, you can contact your guidance counselor for that, and they will work on that. The groups will be on the schedule. We're actually putting it in like it's a class so people can clearly see it on the schedule. And your child will be in group 1 or group 2 for that. This is what the schedule is essentially. So if you are group 1 and group 2, on the first week of school, group 1 would go Tuesday and Wednesday. Group 2 would go Thursday and Friday. Only in person will be the focus. We will not start the true hybrid until the week of the 14th for that. And so the week of the 14th, group 1 would be in school Monday and Tuesday, and then they would be doing the hybrid model Wednesday through Friday. Group 2 would be Thursday and Friday in person, and they would do the hybrid Monday through Wednesday. And I know one of the questions that always comes up is, if my child is on a hybrid model, what is the expectation of the virtual piece? They're going to follow their schedule. They will not be staring at a computer for 80 minutes. During that first week, that week of the 8th, they're going to have conversations with every one of their teachers, or at least most of their teachers, on what that hybrid model will look like and what the expectations are in that class. One of the reasons why we went to the block schedule during this time was so that way they were only 4 classes in a day at the most for any of your students. So therefore, at the most, they would only be seeing 4 of their teachers during their virtual days for that. When you take a look at the schedule, you'll see what that is and how that week of the 8th is a little different. Again, that's in person only. We're just trying to get ourselves acclimated to everything going on in the building, and for the information there on that. For the most part, when you're in a block schedule, if you have classes on A days, you also have classes on C days. If you have classes on B days, you also have the same class on D days. So for the most part, that is the case. The only places that could be a little bit different is at the high school is physical education, health, and the music ensembles. And at the middle school, it's physical education, the music ensembles, some of our 6th grade electives, our 7th grade elective in art, and our 8th grade elective in music. You would only see those 1 out of the 4 cycle days, and we'll work through that in this process of that remote instruction and hybrid learning piece. So on the 14th, group 1 will now be in person on that C day, and group 2 will only be looking at their C day schedule and will only be going to the Google Classrooms of those students and doing those kind of things there for that. So that piece is there on that. Mr. Dawkins, can you talk about virtual school for a second?
I can. So because we know that, as we've talked about working and living through this pandemic, we know that there are several groups of folks that are in increased risk for complications from COVID-19. And because of that, we wanted to make sure that we provided alternative provisions for those students. So students who have family members who are in high-risk groups, students who are in high-risk groups themselves, additionally, families who felt like the right choice for them was to not send their child to school in person. We wanted to accommodate the needs of those students in the community, and so we created a concurrent virtual school. So virtual school is being offered for students K through 5 until the end of the first trimester. And what that means is we will then we will discuss again where we are with the pandemic and where things stand. And that may go forward if it needs to. And for students in 6 through 12, it will be until the end of the first semester. So enrollment in that virtual school is required for elementary students to the end of the first trimester, and for our secondary students until the end of the first semester. And then we will continue to assess at that time to see if we need to continue based on guidance from New York State. Classes will be full-time, well-organized, and they will follow a schedule. So unlike the spring when we closed our buildings in March, and things were a little bit more flexible as far as time spent on meets and when assignments were turned in, this really is going to be more like a live school experience where students are going to be required to sign in with their teachers at certain times. Attendance is required, and that's something that New York State Education Department has been very clear on. And so there will be systems in place to ensure that students are participating. Teachers are going to be utilizing Google Classroom and Google Meet daily to plan and instruct students. And they're going to follow a normal pacing guide, just as they would if the students were in person. Students are going to be required, as I said, to check in for daily attendance. And all core and required courses are going to be covered. Some limitations on electives may happen for secondary students. And that's just because it just is not possible for us to have the number of teachers we would need in order to teach all of those elective courses. If you have questions about that, I would urge you to contact your middle school or high school counselor, and they'll be able to talk with you about that. A virtual school handbook is being put together by our virtual school principal, Geraldine Stellato, as well as a parent technology toolkit. And there will, as I said earlier, be informational meetings that are being scheduled prior to the start of the school year, where those are being worked on now. You're muted, Ms. Orr.
Leaving the basement and coming into our new offices, Mr. Dawkins has confused me this morning.
I could do that.
To anyone out there, this is our first time all of our offices moved from 6 Bluebird to the high school.
Yes, you can see the boxes on the floor.
Right, so I'm apparently having a lot of technical difficulties this morning. Middle school people that signed up for virtual school should have received an email last night from me with lots of information, and high school people as well. We are still finalizing our K-5 virtual school, so that will be coming out more towards the end of the week, so please hang tight there for that. We did receive several questions specific to the 6-12 model that I want to get to. First and foremost, all middle schoolers will still be on teams. So 6th grade will still be and 7th and 8th grade will still be teamed, and those teams will also come out on your schedules for that. When we are going to the hybrid model, if you are in any CTE program, that will also be on a hybrid model. And when you are in attendance for us, Mr. Modi is working with the CTE principals, so that way you will also be in attendance for them at BOCES, but they're also on a hybrid model, so therefore they will be having virtual components as well to that, and we're trying to line it up so those days are exactly the same for all of our students in there on that. Anybody who's in the same family will be on the same schedule for group 1 and group 2. So if you have a middle school student and a high school student, you absolutely will be on the same schedule. If for some reason it comes up and you're on 2 different groups, do not stress about that. Just send an email to one of your guidance counselors, to whichever one you want to change, and let them know your other student is on there, and we will change that very quickly for everyone there on that. It says, can we still opt out of the hybrid model? It just seems to have changed since we first saw the proposed plan. Actually, our hybrid model has not changed at all since that first plan, but you can obviously still contact your guidance counselor or me, and we can change that for you on that situation there if you feel that you're not comfortable with that. Mr. Dawkins, do you see any other middle school ones that I'm missing?
Yeah, will middle school 6th graders still be in teams? Yes, we are still utilizing teams for all of our students. And so, yes, your 6th graders, your 7th graders, and your 8th graders will still be on teams.
Somebody did write, if middle school is not in person, are they expected to log on during class time? They'll follow their class schedule. And again, that first week, that 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, all the teachers will just be reviewing that with everybody. So that way there's a comfort level. It will not be, full days, 7:30 to 2:25 or 2:05, but there will be different times throughout the day that the hope would be they would check in with their Google Classrooms and do different things there for that.
There's a question about how will middle school teachers be sharing their expectations of students for not in-person days with parents? Will there be a uniform way of communication for parents, or will it be up to each teacher? So one of the things that we had teachers work on last year at the end of the year, as we learned from our experience of remote learning, was something called a pivot plan. And on this pivot plan, teachers were required to utilize and choose communication methods, the ed tech platforms that they were going to be using, and those will be communicated out within the first week of school to families. And that will be, the teachers will be sticking to that for the entire time that we are in this experience that we're all living through right now. And so their processes and procedures for communicating with their students on those virtual learning days is part of the reason that we went to the non-virtual learning and only in-person learning on those first 4 days, was to give teachers the opportunity to really go over this information with all of their students. So yes, teachers will be sharing that. There is not necessarily a uniform way of communication for parents. Each teacher utilizes certain methods, but you will find that overall, most of the teachers utilize the same methods. And so you'll be getting that within the first week.
So thanks for the clarification to one of our parents out there that they want to opt in. I apologize to the hybrid model. I'm glad that we are able to answer more and more questions as we do this process. That's not a problem at all. If you signed up for virtual, but your children have decided, or you have decided that you really want your middle school or high school to be back in the hybrid model, you can send me an email and I can make that adjustment very quickly on that and get that information to your guidance counselors as well. So there's no problem there on that component. There are lots of questions on entrances into the buildings and things like that. You'll get specific information from your building principals on that. I can tell you at the high school, in our capital project, we had a system where we wanted people to enter from different doors as it was. So we will be making sure that that is clearly still the case The entrances and the student parking in the front and the parking in the back and the drop off in the back will still be there. So the only thing that may change slightly is how students leave the bus and come into the school. That will be staggered on that. So that kind of component is there. If you have a student out there that has an IEP and you are worried about the hybrid model at the middle school or high school level, please just email Mrs. Spellberg. We are working very hard at that level to get students in need back at 100% on a quicker basis than other students. And so right now, our self-contained students are definitely back at 100%, but I know that piece is there, so we'll work on that. There is a question on here about, and I'm not sure if it's kindergarten through 12th grade, but about being tested to go back to school. And that is not the case. The Department of Health has not recommended universal testing at this point on any student for that. However, the key of all of this is self-monitoring. And there's always going to be questions on testing and what the health recommendations are. There is an extra emphasis by the New York State Department of Health that if students are showing symptoms, they will be referred to their physician. And depending on those, what those symptoms are and the conversation with the physician, testing may need to occur in order to return back to school. I still work with the Saratoga Department of Health weekly on this, and we continue to still get clear information from them of what the expectations are. But if you have a child out there, you will be self-monitoring in the morning. And if they have any symptoms, you need to keep them home. Keep them home. That way you can monitor your child and know it is just a cold or it may be related to allergies, and then they can return to school. You can always call your school nurse and answer any questions that you have about the symptoms for your child on that. But it is really a key piece to all of this is that monitoring piece. I do recommend for anyone that's asking about, about testing or monitoring your students, that we will be requiring that they get their temperature checked every day by their parents. I do it every morning before I come into work because that is the rules now for that. And it really is a good, healthy practice for us to do as families to see, are there any other underlying symptoms that we're just not realizing there on that. I don't know if you see any other questions that we have.
No, I think we're doing pretty well right now. We have some high school questions on there, but we will get to those when we talk more about the high school.
Okay. So, well, I don't, besides the virtual school, the athletics and extracurricular are always a question that comes up. As of today, we still have no new guidance on high school athletics. And so because of that, that means that no athletics will be taking place for that. As of right now, we still have an extracurricular committee that is working to talk about how to bring back extracurricular kindergarten through 12th grade. So that way they get experiences, because school is really about the whole school and not just the in classrooms. However, for at least the first few weeks of school, there will be no after school activities. There will be no after school buses. So that way we are very clear that we are just practicing all of our procedures from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And information will come out from every building when we're able to add in extracurricular activities and after school activities there for that. Do you want to answer any other questions, Mr. Dawkins, before we go to technology?
There was a question about special areas, art, band, affected by the change in the middle school, high school schedules. Will still have those classes available to them? The answer is yes, they will. Students will still be participating in those classes. As we said earlier, the special area classes are just as important as the other classes. Obviously, we are continuing to work on procedures for our performance groups, as there are slightly different guidelines from the Department of Health around performance with instruments and singing. Social distancing normally is 6 feet apart, but for those areas, it needs to be 12 feet apart. So those are kind of building level procedures. And I would suggest that if you have questions specifically about how that will work in the middle school or the high school, that you reach out to the building administrators and they can fill you in on more of that. But students will be participating in those classes.
So technology, as I mentioned, we are trying to give devices kindergarten through 12th grade. We're hoping for early September. You'll get information as soon as they're there with all the information on that. So please be patient in this one because that one is there for that. Communications. There's lots of things that we need to communicate about, and unfortunately, I've been trying hard this summer to only do it, once a week. And right now, you will be getting several, I'm sure, from me or from other people along the way, especially your building principals on that. But you can always check the district website. We update it as soon as we do presentations in any manner for that. There will be individual information coming from each principal. We have these town hall meetings. We check our emails regularly, when we can. We're not on a Google Meet like this. So we try to get back to you for that. But at this point, we have a meeting at the 612 level with all the counselors, so they're very aware of all the programs going on in their buildings and the hybrid model. So there's lots of people for you to reach out to in this. But we know there's a lot of moving parts, and we know there's a lot of things in reopening and reimagining our district that people have questions on, and we want to be as available as possible to you on that. The last part of the official meeting today would be on before and after school care. We are very lucky to continue to work with the Monroe Community Center on offering before and after school at our 4 elementary buildings, and we will still be doing that. That is all done through the Monroe Community Center, so you can check their website on information for that, and they will be responding to you immediately on those components. As I like to say in all of these, how do we reopen? I always want people to know that as of 8/19, this is exactly how things are. As soon as we have anything that changes, we'll make sure to send emails and update people on that for those things, for anything that changes. I watch the governor every time he's on, just like all of you do. So therefore, that it is all there, and we are watching the same time. If anything changes in our region where we have to go to full remote because that has happened, we will let you know immediately on those things and what our plan is for that. Again, these are our 11 things in this area, components. So I think 2 of the hardest questions on here, and some of the things that are definitely on our website to give you better understanding in that is on contact tracing or positive cases. Yes, first and foremost, we do know there's privacy issues, but we also know that we can communicate with families even through that. South Glens Falls has always, throughout all of this, gone towards in the abundance of caution mode. So when the governor put people at half capacity or a quarter capacity, we closed down our buildings very quickly, even for some of our office staff, and everyone worked remotely in that abundance of caution. So that continues to be our motto on that. Our nurses have been trained in the Johns Hopkins Tracer course, and they will be working directly with Saratoga County Department of Health on that tracing. If we are assigned to contact parents from the Department of Health and working with them, you will hear directly from us on that. Usually any of those tracing pieces happen through them because they're the ones that have to make the decisions on who is notified in that. Believe me, this is the piece of first and foremost that we've been meeting weekly on, because we want to have assurance from Saratoga County that they are on board for that. They have been doing presentations in a few other districts, and I've been trying to get them here to no luck right now, but I have been asking for some of their slides more specifically on this. So my hope is that I can put something on our website very specific to this, so therefore we can make sure we have the questions answered for that. And I'm always appreciative that people ask those questions, because I know that's on people's minds for that. But I also know that every morning we check the numbers. Every morning we wake up, we check the numbers of where we are in our country, in our county, and in our region, just to ensure that we're below the percentages. So that way we feel that the plan is still safe for that. If at all between now and beginning of school, our numbers spike, you will be hearing from me of a different plan, because that is the first thing that we look at to make sure that we're on board for that. Mr. Dawkins, do you see any others that have come in that we may not have addressed?
I'm sorry, there was a question on here, and I don't know if I missed it. My son is a junior, is supposed to attend BOCES in the morning and then school for the afternoon. How is that going to play out with the hybrid model?
Yeah, so I'll repeat it because I did address it, but I think if it came again, I want to make sure it's there. Mr. Modi is working with the CTE principals to ensure that if our students are here on Mondays and Tuesdays, they're also at the BOCES on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they'll be doing the virtual Wednesday through Friday and vice versa. Our BOCES students have to be broken up one or two. They can't all go together. And so that's why he's working with them on that. So if you are coming to school, you're coming right from BOCES right to us in all cases. And again, Mr. Modi will address that as we get closer on that component.
And that seems to be it. It looks like we've gotten to all of the questions. I think I always like to, and we always like to say thank you to folks who show up and ask these questions. They're important questions. We also really thank you for your patience and understanding. This is certainly a difficult process for everyone. Families, schools, teachers, administrators. It's an unprecedented event in our lives. I don't think any of us expected to be going through this, and often we're changing things on a dime. We're stopping and with new guidance that comes in, having to change things around. So this community has been very patient and understanding, and we continue to thank you for that. We will communicate with you, as Ms. Orr said, as everything kind of comes down the line. And we're really looking forward to getting the school year started.
So thanks, everyone. My final comment is if you're out there talking to people and you feel that there is anyone out there that is either doesn't have all the information or is still looking for more information, send them our way. We'll connect them with the right people. We'll make sure we do our best to get everybody's questions answered. It is a beautiful day out. It is a great day to be out and about. And so that's why we are hopeful that we did this early enough so we didn't interrupt too many people's days for that. And again, we thank you for joining us this early in the morning. And please continue to look for emails from us so we can give you all the information. At this time, I am stopping the recording and stopping the live stream.